So in Football Manager 23, low blocks are apparently a thing. And the real question is though, do they actually work? Yes. Yes, they do. And to prove to you that they work, we are going to talk about a tactic that I created whilst playing a save with Eintracht Frankfurt in the Bundesliga. I've only done one season, but it was a very good season. So let's dive into the tactic and see what made it work so well. Trust me, you're going to want to watch this one. So viewers, you join me at the end of the first season as Eintracht Frankfurt manager. And as you can see, I have finished the season after 34 games, second in the Bundesliga. Okay, we are 15 points off Bayern Munich, but I've got an excuse, and it is a good one. They're really good. All right, Bayern Munich are really, really good, and it's really annoying. All right, I'm sorry. I tried my best, but they just don't lose games. It's impossible. So it's about being the best of the rest, and that is pretty much what we have achieved this season. 3 points ahead of RB Leipzig, and a whopping 6 points ahead of Borussia Dortmund, who sit in 4th place. So a very good season overall. But you're probably wondering, well, you've mentioned the tactics, so show us, how have you managed to make this Frankfurt team so good? Well, you're absolutely right, and let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. So this then, viewers, is pretty much what I've been deploying all season. Now, I'll be right front with you from the get-go here. It hasn't always looked like this, but it has essentially been a 5-3-2. The difference was at the start of the season, we had this DLP sitting a little bit deeper, sitting in front of the back three on that defend duty, and having Kamada, the attacking advanced playmaker, sitting next to the box-to-box on that attack duty. 2 attacking wing-backs either side of the DLP with a pressing forward and an advanced forward sitting up top together. And then a back three of a central defender, a ball-playing defender. Occasionally, they have been wide centre-backs on each side, but I found towards the end of the season I was getting more consistent performances when they were using those roles. And in the middle of those two, I've been using a libero. Yes, we are getting exotic over here at Frankfurt. So in terms of our attacking width, we're playing quite wide. I wanted to make the most out of those attacking wing-backs that we've got and try and spread the play and stretch the pitch as much as possible. I could have gone wider, obviously, but I think fairly wide. It's a pretty good balance, and it did allow us to create some good opportunities from those wide areas. It's when we get to the approach play that I am doing things quite a bit differently than what I'm used to doing, really. I usually play with a slightly higher tempo and shorter passing. This season, no. Slightly more direct passing, so we're not looking to play sort of tiki-taka or into feet. We are hitting it long and basically looking to spring on the counter-attack against teams. And that higher tempo means that when we do win the ball back outside of our own area, we're looking to release the ball as quickly as possible. And that also explains why we're passing into space a little bit more. We've got pace up front with the likes of Moani and Lindstrom's no slouch when he starts as well. And also, again, those wing-backs, they bomb forward, we get it into space and get them to run onto it. And hopefully get the ball into the penalty area for us to create some chances. In terms of the final third, I'm kind of switching in between of working to the box and early crossing. Sometimes early crossing works really well for me. Sometimes working to the box works really well for me. There's no real set way of doing that for me in this tactic anyway. I think it's very much adjusting it game by game pretty much. And in terms of the rest of the final third, we're not dribbling more, running at the fence, or we're not being more expressive or anything like that. This is pretty much how it works. And in terms of our mentality, it can range between balance to positive depending on who we're playing against. Cautious isn't really for me. Like, I think cautious makes you a little bit too defensive, and I didn't want to be just a super out-and-out defensive team this year. Again, I wanted to find a good balance. In terms of the transition then, it's pretty standard stuff. Counter-pressing and countering. The countering is obviously very, very important. Again, it's that idea of winning the ball back sort of in and around in our own half and then breaking with pace and with speed. And again, it's worked very well this year. And a part of that is making sure that the goalkeeper distributes quickly, and we're making sure he distributes to the libero. So basically, when we're in possession, we almost turn into a bit of a diamond formation. Like, Ndicka pushes so much further forward as that attacking libero that, like I said, when we're going forward, our formation goes from a back five really into a back four, just with the wing backs pushed very, very high up. And in terms of out of possession, then this is where the low block comes in. So it's just a standard defensive line, but I'm making sure that defensive line does drop off more rather than stepping up, or, you know, neither or basically. I basically wanted to make sure that when teams do attack us, we're able to get back into our shape, which I could have done using regroup, but I just found counter pressing was just as effective. Usually, out of possession, we were quite good at getting back into our shape, and drop off more definitely contributed towards that. We've utilised the pressing trap on the inside, so the idea there is obviously, you know, we've got 3 centre-backs and 3 midfielders. We've tried to force teams into there, and that's a good opportunity for us to try and win the ball back. But we're also making sure we stop crosses, so if the opposition does feel like, okay, we're getting no joy down the middle, we'll try and get out wide. We are making sure we are there to stop them from putting balls into the box, which, I'll be honest, has had mixed results. I do think that is down to the fact defending in this edition of the beta, or this edition of the game, as it is in beta, does need a little bit of tweaking. There's some certain things that defenders do don't quite make a lot of sense. Sometimes they will close people down from wide areas, sometimes they won't at all, but I think SI are looking into that. And as you can see, we are utilising that low block, and as per the game's definition of it, a low block instructs your players to wait until the opposition come towards them for engaging them in a pressing game. The first player is unlikely to trigger the press, but will instead look to block passing lanes. Other players will follow suit while retaining much of their tactical position as they bid to condense the available space to play in. And that is pretty much how I wanted to set this team up. It was, the idea in my head was a team that was very good and very dangerous going forward, but also difficult to break down and difficult to beat. And we're going to dive now I mean, I've shown you the league table, and being second in the table can only really tell you a bit of the story. We are going to look into sort of more of the stats behind the season as a whole. But if we were to focus on the league table, I think it's worth pointing out, after 34 games, 23 wins, 6 draws and only 5 defeats. Those defeats coming against Dortmund away from home, Wolfsburg away from home, Bayern, Gladbach and Werder Bremen. All away from home. We did not lose a single home game this season. The Dortmund game, we were a little bit unlucky. They went down to 10 men. We got it back to 2-1, started chasing it and pushing further up, and then we just conceded too much space in behind us, and they basically took advantage of that. 68 goals scored in 34 games and only 29 conceded. That is the second best defensive record in the entire league, and leaves us with a goal difference of plus 39. Now, you consider Bayern Munich have a goal difference of plus 72, but again, they are pretty much an outlier because of how good they are and how much stronger they are compared to all the other teams in the competition. But bear in mind, we were able to outscore and concede less than the likes of Leipzig. I mean, Dortmund did score more goals than us with 74, but they also conceded 38. So I think that was a big reason how we were able to finish above them. We just weren't conceding that many goals, really. Now, another thing I absolutely love, viewers, is when you hit the subscribe button. Yes, if you're new around here and you haven't already yet subscribed, then make sure you do. We've recently surpassed 1,000 subscribers. We're aiming for 2. Let's not stop here. And of course, if you haven't already, please leave a like on the video. It lets me know that you're enjoying this type of content, and it helps the channel out massively as well. Everybody wins. So as we dive into the more detailed statistics of the season, taking all the teams into account, I was doing this earlier, and I did find some quite fascinating results. Firstly, in terms of average possession, we are 13th overall for average possession throughout the season with just 46%. So that tells you that we are very happy to not, to surrender possession. It's all about when you do win the ball back, it's what you do with, it's what you do with it when you do win the ball back. It's how quickly you can get up the pitch and create scoring opportunities. And to have 46% possession across 34 games, do you know what? And being able to finish second in the league, I'm pretty happy with that. And it shows you what I meant about the tactic. Like we're trying to be difficult to break down, and that in that sense, we are happy to let the other team have a bit more possession than we are, because we feel that what we can do when we do get the ball is way more effective. We managed to register around 2 goals per game as well, so it wasn't even a case of just, grinding out 1-0 wins here and there. We actually did win a lot of our games by quite a comfortable scoreline. As you can see as well, we're at top of the stat leaderboard for high intensity sprints, which I love, as I'm someone who does value work rate in my FM squads. So to see us, putting those yards in is really, really good to see. We have the highest conversion rate in the league as well, with 15%. We also have the highest amount of shots on target with 44%. So again, even though we're playing the low block, it doesn't necessarily mean we're overly defensive. As you can see from the attacking statistics, we are a bit of a force to be reckoned with. And if we can add, higher quality players to this squad, we could be challenging Bayern Munich in no time. And then it gets to the defensive side of things. As you can see, second in the table for goals conceded with 29. Bayern again only conceding 13, but we still conceded only 29, whereas Werder Bremen were third with 32 conceded. We're also 8th for expected goals against, so did pretty well there, given that we conceded 29, and expected goals against for us was 44. So again, I think that shows you how well both Kevin Trapp and the defence were doing. Now, I talk about winning possession back and countering with purpose, and I think nothing shows that more than in terms of being top of the interceptions table with 1,218, and top of the possession 1 table, where we won the ball back 4,715 times with a tackling 1 ratio of 75%. So again, the way we set up in that low block, it just means we've got a lot more desire within the players to win the. But it's all about, again, I keep saying it, winning the ball back, countering with purpose. Hopefully the stats are showing you how effective that tactic has been at doing that. Now, I will say, viewers, that I always say this about tactics in Football Manager, I don't personally think there is one set tactic that you can just download and stick on any old team. Some of them you probably can do, but for the most part, I think especially with something like this, it does very much depend on the type of players that you have in your system. Again, it was very much built around the fact that we knew we had workhorses. Like Lindstrom's got work rate of 15. Maybe not a natural striker, but again, he's 14 pace, 15 acceleration, which is good to see. And then you got Mawani, who is just an out-and-out speed demon up top, and he's very good in front of goals. It was ultimately, it was about having those workhorses within the team. I'm looking through my players now. A lot of them have like around 14 to 15 for work rate, which I do think is very important. There are a few 12s in there, but this is a team who will work hard out of possession, which when you're trying to set up in this way, I do think is incredibly important. So just bear that in mind if you do decide to download this tactic. The link for that will be in the description. If you do decide to download it and you want to implement it to your save, maybe consider what type of players you have in your squad. If you've got players built to play sort of tiki-taka, sort of Man City style, it may not necessarily work. And one final warning, if you are going to use this tactic, be mindful of that libero. They will leave space in behind when you are attacking. Obviously, we talk about being able to win the ball back, and countable teams are going to be trying doing that to you as well. And the libero, for me, is kind of a risk-reward type situation. You are taking a risk that you are having a centre-back push basically so far up the pitch they eventually turn into a midfielder that if you do lose the ball and you get counted on, you are going to leave yourself quite vulnerable at the back. But as you can see from this season, I think that high risk has most certainly presented a high reward for us. Again, second in the table. Very, very good season. Bearing in mind, I started this save up, as I said, it was just something to play in my spare time, but I fell in love with watching this team play games in the match engine so much. I just thought I had to do a video about it and showcase to you guys. And like I said, maybe you want to download it and use it in your saves. If you do, make sure you get in the comments of this video and let me know how you get on with it. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Low blocks do in fact work in Football Manager 23. It all just kind of depends on the tactic and instructions you're using and the players that you have available to in your squad. But you don't even have to play this tactic if you want to utilize a low block. There is means and ways of doing it. You just have to maybe think about how you set your tactic up a little bit more. But let me know in the comments again how much success you've had with low blocks this year. I'm very interested to see. And I love the fact that you can experiment a little bit more this year and try different types of tactics and different ways of playing and still getting some incredible results out of them, just like we've managed to do with Frankfurt. Thank you very much for watching today's video, ladies and gentlemen. And again, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video if you have enjoyed it as well. I've been Breezy, and until the next one, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.